Welcome to the Subjective Professor podcast, where we reject coercion and hypocrisy. This is episode 321, Getting Out of the Box. So, yeah, yesterday I was going to do an episode, but I fell asleep. The arbitration hearing was heavy. I thought I was relaxed, but as soon as I came home, I just crashed and I basically slept through the night. It wasn't even that long of a day. Maybe it's because uh, I'm getting old. I refuse to admit it, but I think I am. My lawyer basically told me that this case is complex and simple at the same time. It's simple because my own personal situation is pretty straightforward, it seems. However, there are greater implications to this case that if the university loses, then it opens the door, I think, for lots of other arbitration. In other words, there are a couple lines in the collective bargaining agreement which is being disputed between the union and the university. I'm not in the union, as I said before, but I am covered under the collective bargaining agreement. I telegraphed to my lawyer explaining why I'm not in the union because they kind of left me left me out to dry, hung me out to dry like 8 years ago or so. Yeah, so I got out of the union because of it. But anyway, I mean, I stayed in just because, although as a free market person, I didn't really support it. But then when they totally let me down, then I was like, okay, I'm out. All right. So anyway, so that's that little update. And we didn't get through my testimony. That's why I can't really talk about what happened. Otherwise, I would make an episode about it because it was really interesting. But I'm not allowed to talk about the details because I'm still giving my testimony. But because it's arbitration, I won't be able to have my second day in court until at the earliest June. So this is not even going to, I probably won't get resolved. It probably won't get resolved before the fall of this year. So it's going to look like 2.5 years this drags out. And I guess that's the way things are. So, but I don't really care at this point. I just want I just want my pound of flesh, I guess, is the best way, the only way you can really say it. All right, so getting down to the business because you don't care about that. So Rand Paul, I saw you may be familiar that a couple days ago, Rand Paul tried to pass an amendment, I think, to the budget where he proposed to cut $1.5 trillion from the budget, and he floated it in the Senate, and it was defeated 24 to 76, right? And so Justin Amash, or I think Rand Paul tweeted, nothing has changed. Republicans praise Doge publicly, and then they vote for more spending when you're not paying attention. So clearly, as much as a lot of people are excited about Doge, they're seeing all of the misallocation of resources, and our country is already bankrupt, right? I mean, we're $36 trillion in debt. It can never be paid back. No one cares, and the spending was increased, right? And so on the one hand, you have attempts to save money, and then of course, Congress, the only thing that they do is try to figure out how to waste even more money. So I hope their constituents are paying attention and they vote out those senators who voted against this amendment. Now, hopefully, it's long enough since I last discussed it, but this idea of being out of the box. So I can't explain what happened in my hearing, but my arbitration hearing, but I can tell you why I'm in this pickle, and it's because I teach out of the box ideas. Okay, and this aligns with what Rand Paul is trying to do. And the reason why the spending, it's just this automatic increase to spending thing is because these people are stuck in a box. They cannot get out of the box. Our whole society has been socialized to basically live inside the box and even pretend that they're living outside of the box. Like, ooh, that's such an out of the box idea. Like, it really upsets me every time I hear that, because usually, especially if you understand a lot more, see a bigger picture, then it's just a recycled idea of something that happened before. And so, as I said, I think this is one of the reasons why I'm in trouble, or in other words, what is being used to get me in trouble with this arbitration. It's a suspicion, okay, a very strong, probable suspicion. Anyway, so I'm always, as I always try to tell the students that I taught this to, that you want to find what the loopholes are. You want to find the edge, right? The edge of uh, the walls of your box. That way you know how to get around them. And this is what really upsets a lot of people, upsets my colleagues, upsets all these people who want to maintain the status quo, upsets people who are stuck in the box. Now, being out of the box and just so you know, I talked and explained in full what the box looks like in episodes 20 and 21. All right, just a heads up. So if you want a detailed explanation of what the box looks like, you can just go way back, episode 20 and 21. So I'll summarize it, but just so you know, the idea of the box is that everyone inside of the box feels warm and fuzzy, right? You say things and other people are like, yeah, man, that's pretty cool. Out of the box ideas are radical. They are perceived as dangerous. They scare people. They upset people. They offend people. Okay. And so being out of the box is to be truly radical. And so there are a lot of people who pretend they're radical. They call themselves radical. Maybe there's a certain style of clothing which sort of gives off the vibe that they're radical. But to be truly radical, you have to be scaring lots of people. You have to make people look at you and they say, whoa, this guy is crazy. Because sometimes they are, okay? So, in other words, 99% of out of the box ideas, right? Untypical, not been done before ideas are just absolutely horrible, destructive, if we were to use the word crazy, I don't even know if that word is used anymore, just insane ideas, right? And they just don't work. Because they're just too nutty, right? But 1% or less of the ideas are fantastic. They're like revolutionary. But because they're all outside of the box, all of them are lumped together as being crazy ideas that just won't work, right? That are just dangerous. Um, so people who are in the box, they always think that they're out of the box, right? A lot of professors, they say, "Ooh, let's think out of the box this semester," right? But they ain't, right? They're not, they're still in the box, right? So if through their class, they're not upsetting people, they're not rattling people's cages, they're not inspiring people to stretch, to reach out, to think, to explore, if they're not doing that, right, then they're still in the box, right? And most professors are so deep in their box that they can't see the sides of the box, which is why they think they're out, right? They think they're out of the box because they can't even see the walls of their box, right? Because they're so small inside a small box. Right now, so inside the box, these are filled with old ideas that just don't work. But people who hold on to those ideas believe that they are good as long as they use coercion, standardization, socialization, so that they can achieve harmony inside the box. And this is totally BS. It's impossible. You can't do that because we are so diverse. And the same choice, the same way of thinking does not work for everybody who lives in the world. It just does not. And so if you try to force fit certain standard ideas, same old boring ideas, small set of choices on everybody, it will be rejected. Okay. And that's why you have a lot of criminal activity, there's a lot of crime, there's a lot of disobedience, there's a lot of chaos in a society that's at its breaking point. And this is sort of what the United States is right now. So you have the deep state, uh, uh, politicians, career politicians are maintaining the box. And all these people who are trying to get out of the box, even someone like Trump, is somewhat out of the box. And the more he reveals his plan, you begin to realize, oh, okay, so he is definitely not like everybody else. I mean, uh, how far out of the box he is yet to be seen. And sometimes he says goofy things, which means he's still in the box, right? So there's that. So it's not altogether clear, but some of the things that he's saying, like Doge, in and of itself, is very much out of the box, right? Because we're having different results. We're having things that upset so many people, right? So if you're in the box, different ideas are a threat. They're disgusting. They're dangerous. And the people who hold those ideas, see, they're all alone, right? And it looks like they have very few friends, which makes it very easy to attack that person, right? And so Elon Musk definitely out of the box, but he has uh, FU money, right? I don't know if you are familiar with that expression, FU, right? Anyway, he's wealthy enough that he doesn't care what other people think, right? And so he's able to do and function outside of the box, and it doesn't matter, right? When he had no money, he was just a weirdo, right? But now that he has lots of money, yeah, he's eccentric, he's odd, he's very strange, but hey, love his ideas. Okay, you see the difference, right? Now, especially in this era of political correctness, where there's a small range of acceptable opinions, right? Especially during the Biden administration, or even in Europe, where the range of acceptable opinions is very, very narrow. So if you express your opinion now, you have to go to jail, you get arrested, you're fined, police come visit your house. Okay, and so that's what I mean by the range of acceptable opinions, right? It's very, very narrow. Within that range, if you say something and everyone agrees with you, right, with very little effort, then you're in the box, right? Um, if no one pushes back against you, if no one is upset by what you say, you're in the box, right? And one of the things I would always, as I'm about to teach what the box looks like to my college students, I would always ask them, have you ever heard anyone say, let's think outside of the box? And they all say, yeah, yeah. They always hear it all the time. And it's sort of a cliche now. And so I said, well, has any of them ever told you what the box looks like? And not a single student ever said, yeah, that person who said, let's think outside of the box, told me what it looks like. And I said, I'm going to tell you what the box looks like next class, right? And so tune in and that would be the hook. And I would get everyone kind of excited, like, whoa, this is different. Like no one has ever, I never even thought that the box actually has an appearance, that we can actually know what this box is, right? Because if you know what the box is, right, you know what the side of your box is, then you know what is limiting you, you know what is restraining you, keeping you from better ideas. Okay. And so I'll just say very quickly, but again, as a reminder, episode 2021 goes over them in detail. I'll just review them because of course all of you listened to those two episodes and remember the content completely. But anyway, so the four sides that I worked out, and every once in a while I think of a fifth side, but it's more private. It doesn't have a broader relevance outside myself. So one day I will write it down and remember what that fifth side was. But for now, the four sides are sufficient and you can go from there. In other words, every person has their own box. But by me laying out these four sides, okay, it's enough for you to figure out where other sides of your personal box might be. I don't care. This is just a concept. I have no I don't believe in intellectual property either, right? You can just drop me a line and say, hey, I used your idea. I gave you credit. The subjective professor introduced this to me, whatever. That's all I care about. But use the idea, improve your life with it, share the knowledge, help other people who are struggling. Okay. So the first side I always mention is prior knowledge. Everything that you know, all the information in your head right now that you are using to listen to this podcast, that's your prior knowledge. And every moment you're building that prior knowledge, right? So everything you learn today will become tomorrow's prior knowledge, part of tomorrow's prior knowledge. Prior knowledge includes experience, all those things that happen in your life, memories, social conditioning that you don't even remember, right? So your taste in music, why do you like that music as opposed to that? And you don't remember, but it's part of your prior knowledge, okay? So all of your preference exists because of your prior knowledge, okay? That prior knowledge, as much as one might think that it's massive, is actually limiting. right? So if you don't know something, then you just think it doesn't exist, right? So if you didn't know there was such a thing as thorium nuclear reactors, that only uranium nuclear reactors existed, or that you did not know that in Europe they recycle uranium, and so they have recycled uranium power plants, right? If they don't just stick it in Yucca Mountain in Nevada somewhere, right, waiting for some nuclear catastrophe, they recycle all that stuff and they get energy from them, you see. So if you didn't know about it, then you're just still talking about windmills and solar panels. Okay. So prior knowledge limits you. And the easy solution to prior knowledge, of course, is just learn more, right? Expose yourself to different opinions, different people, different personalities, different ideas, or you yourself, through thought experiments, can discover where you may find information that you didn't even know existed before. Okay. The second side of the box is law, right? Rules. And law basically are the regulations of society. Oh, you can't do that. That's illegal. Oh, you got to do that. Otherwise, it's required, So all this stuff, laws, you got to get a driver's license to drive, whatever. All the laws that exist tell you the what is okay to explore and what is verboten, right? You're not allowed to go there. It's restricted area, right? And the impression you're supposed to get is that if it's illegal, it's bad, right? Don't even try it. Don't even think about it. And I remember I was talking to a business. I told you we had this collaboration with the business school, and so I was talking with one of the business school professors, and I said, all the best ideas have been criminalized. And he kind of looked at me like, what? And so I was so far much further out of the box than he was. And he was a professor in the Innovation Institute. So it was this awkward moment, right? That I was more radical than him. But anyway, so what you do to overcome this law is find loopholes, right? How do I get around the law? A perfect example would be Cody guy who does the 3D printing of guns. And he not only figured out that it's a freedom of expression, freedom of speech because they're using printers, you see. But he graduated from that, and he has a company called GhostGunner.net. I think Ghost Gunner is the main part of the website, and they've graduated to milling machines. And so, when you say you can't sell a gun without all this regulation, well, they figured out how to take a brick of aluminum and turn it into an AR lower, right? Which basically is the gun, legally speaking. And so that is so out of the box, right? And so at it used to be that 80% lowers were not considered a gun, right? But it looks like one. But then now you take just a 0% lower, right? It's just a block and you mill it down into a lower and now you have a gun, right? So so it's one way to get around the law without becoming a criminal, okay? And so that's another side of the Bible. Morality is another. Now, this is the tricky one, right? Because everyone is all into virtue signaling now, right? Or saying, "Oh, that's immoral," right? And people look at me all the time and call me immoral. I mean, I'm a Jesus freak, and people are calling me immoral, right? And so, morality, like what you think is gross, disgusting, or even beautiful and desirable, right? Everyone is different. And so your personal sense of morality is what restricts you, prevents you from exploring certain choices, right? And so even though I'm a super conservative Jesus freak, right? A Jesus freak among Jesus freaks, okay? And if you've been listening to my sermons, maybe it doesn't sound like that, but I really am, right? So but even there, I understand that my personal morality will not permit me to do certain things, but I'm not going to stop anyone else from exercising their understanding morality as long as they take responsibility for everything that they do. So, for example, if you might say feeding the poor is really, really important, okay, well then you pay for it, right? That's your choice, that's your morality, so you run with it, okay? And so what would be How do you overcome your personal morality? Either you come to a deeper understanding of what your faith really is saying, that maybe you're just simply being dogmatic, that you're just rejecting because the teachers in your church or your religion say that no, 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 you must do it this way. Well, you got to examine all of that. Maybe they're just teaching you that so they can maintain their status and position, right? And so then you got to explore, you got to really study. And some people don't want to do it. That's cool. You still got your prior knowledge. You still got, circumventing law or undermining law or basically seeing just how law is bad. You still got those two big areas. The fourth wall is language. And this is for people who speak multiple languages, right? And so what I said in episode 20 or 21, I said the way that we do it in my church, sometimes in Korean, a topic comes up. It's really awkward to say it in Korean, right? And so what you do is just switch to English, right? Or if in English, like a lot of people talk about racialized language or, how institutional racism appears in the very language that we use or gendered language, etc. Well, just switch languages and all of those problems just disappear. And once you're done with the topic, then you revert back to English, right? And so that kind of idea is one of the things that come up with the language. I say a whole lot more about language, but I won't go into it in this episode since we're already past the 20-minute mark. Now, I want to get into the good and the bad. The bad is because no one gets it, right? You're out of the box and everyone looks at like you're crazy, right? Just like all the only people who didn't look at me as like I'm crazy were my students, right? Because they got it, right? They could hear what I was trying to get them to see and they loved it. And people who didn't, right? Like the socialists, right? They just looked at me as interesting and curious, right? But there are lots of other professors who will just demonize you, right? And why would they do that? Well, because of tradition, because of orthodoxy, because of what competes with innovation is the old ideas, the old ways of doing things, right? So, give you an example, I won't go into detail, multiculturalism. I mean, we're seeing multiculturalism blowback, okay? I think everyone can see that now, but I've been criticizing multiculturalism for decades, okay? Another old idea is race is color. Nah, we know that race is a generalization. Anything that can be generalized can also be a racial category. It doesn't always have to be negative. It can be something positive. And something that one person sees as bad is something that is the ultimate awesomeness to someone else. And so this idea that race is color and is always bad, we shouldn't talk about race, yeah, that's old. And if you do away with that, then a lot of this racial rhetoric that people are throwing around, you can't do that anymore, right? And people hate that. No, we got to maintain the old definitions so that we can hate on people, that we can be angry and we can protest and do all this other kind of stuff. And if you have a better idea, innovative idea, explanation of race, well, no, you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to get angry. You don't have to protest this stuff. You just get busy with your life. Now, people who are stuck in the past cannot appreciate the new, the future, and especially they don't have hope, right? Because all of their hope, their desires, what they're looking forward to is stuff that other people have already done. That's not hope. Even scripture says hope that you can see is not hope. That's I think even if you don't believe in Jesus, right? This should say something to you that hope that you can see, that's not hope, right? You got to hope, you have to have an expectation of something future that is yet unseen, right? And unknown too. Now, the good is that through coming out of the box, there's innovation, there's progress, there's new ideas. You solve problems, right? And that was the beauty. When I start showing how you solve problems through innovation to my class, they all got excited and they all got busy innovating new ideas themselves. And I always told them, you start with yourself, right? Because your problem is probably a problem that is shared by thousands of other people, at least in the world, right? And probably a lot more. So once you have an idea, a solution to resolve some problem, upload it, share it, disseminate it, right? And you know that you're going to be helping lots of other people in the process, okay? And so by having this out of the box ability to think out of the box, well, there are new things, new ideas, new products, new methods. Above all, there's hope. There's that anticipation of, okay, I'm working on this, but someone else could be working on something else too. And collectively, we are constantly improving in society, right? This is innovation. This is out of the box thinking. Congress, all these socialists, okay, they're stuck in the past, right? And that's not what America is supposed to be about, right? It's a country full of hope, expectation, anticipation of what someone else is going to invent, what I might come up with, and then share with everybody else so that everyone gets to benefit from that. All this violence, war, hate, hating on people, getting offended, man, that's old stuff. That's orthodoxy, right? That's tradition, resisting change, conservatism. Nah, no, you want new, you want exciting, you want things that are making things better uh, and less expensive as well. So that's it for this episode. Sorry, I went a little long, but hopefully it was a good refresher, right? Especially if you barely remember episode 20, 21. Also, a couple of episodes after that, I have what do you call what is it? Innovation in action, right? So I give some examples of innovative, if you don't remember or you never listened to them, innovative ideas some of my students came up with, and some of them were so fantastic that all the judges were offended, and that's how you know you were onto something. That's it for this episode. I hope that you have a fantastic evening. I'll talk to you guys next time.